Jessy Stoneroad has been keeping land hermit crabs since July of 2017. She got her first crab at No Balls Amusement Park in Pennsylvania because her husband joked about it. She was desperate for a pet to take care of, and since her husband is allergic to every fuzzy animal except for dogs, she had to get creative. Before purchasing the crab, she did some basic research for the tank and thought, I can do this. Then hermit crabs became an obsession and an awesome hobby. She has learned a lot within the short time she's had them and is now a moderator for the Land Hermit Crab Owners Society and the Crabby Hermit. She currently has 4 crabs in a 75-gallon tank with a topper, all purple pinchers. Her first crab, Leo da Pinchi, is still doing well, along with his friend, Pincho Picasso, who came from a pet store before she learned to adopt instead of shop. She then rescued Momo from her chiropractor, and her littlest crab, Flopsy, is one of the captive bred babies she was approved to adopt. Jessy is so happy to have found this hobby group and enjoys helping to advocate for better care and kinder treatment of land hermit crabs. Please welcome Jessy Stoneroad.
Hi everyone, and welcome to CrabCon. With the help of a friend, I'm going to be talking about a few things. First topic is going to be about the nutritional needs of hermit crabs, and then I can show you how to make a meal plan with that nutritional knowledge to ensure your crabby friends are getting all the nutrients needed to be happy, healthy hermit crabs. The last part of our time together is going to show you one of the many ways to store all those dehydrated food mixes that we're obsessed with buying. And if you have any questions while the presentation is running, feel free to type them into the chat and I'll do my best to answer you all. But before we get into everything, introductions need to be made. Here's my friend, Shelly.
Hi everyone, and thank you Jessy for bringing me to CrabCon. I want to thank everyone for joining today to learn more about what we need to eat so that other crabs like me can thrive and not just survive. So where are we going to start, Jessy?
I think the best place to start is at the beginning with a little basic information. There are 11 main nutritional groups that need to be fed. Proteins, including meat.
Oh, I love that one!
Shelly, will you please let me finish before you start being crazy? Now, where was I? So there's proteins, including meat, nuts, veggies, fruits, seeds, and grains. And then there's foraged, anthocyanins, fat sources, supplements, beta-carotene, and then lutein and zeaxanthin. Protein is a very important nutritional group. It helps hermit crabs grow, and feeding plenty of proteins will help prevent cannibalism.
Now may I speak? I want to say something important.
Alright, what do you have to say?
Each time you guys feed us, make sure to have 50% of the meal as proteins, especially meat sources. They're super yummy and extra delicious. Proteins also provide more than just proteins. They can also be a serving of healthy fat source. See, Jessy, it was important.
Good job thinking about that and bringing it up. That is a very important fact, and it's also a good spot to mention the servings needed of each food group. So here's a simple food chart I created to help make it easier for anyone new to the crab life. It shows 50% protein, then the rest of the groups are split up equally because you should try to get as many different nutrients into each feeding as possible. It's a great thing that a lot of those dehydrated food mixes that our approved sellers make cross over multiple food groups and makes feeding this easy. Chitin is another important nutrient, which is part of the supplements group. It helps strengthen their exoskeleton, and examples include their own shed exo and shed exos of cicadas, snakes, and similar animals. But be sure to remember that animals should not be medicated or ill. Other surprising examples of chitin are mushrooms, bananas, and kiwis.
It's a good idea to keep in mind some of the examples of chitin because in emergency situations, if you find one of us that seems to not finish hardening up after a molt, you can feed me some of these helpful items.
Exactly, Shelley. Anyone who keeps hermit crabs will know surprises happen, and it's important to remember a few little things in case of those surprises.
Oh yay, a pop quiz! How this works is I will ask the question and start a timer for 10 seconds. If you know the answer, just type it in the chat and I'll reveal the answer. Question 1. How much of a hermit crab's daily diet should be protein? A, 32%, B, 50%, C, 90%, or D, 74%? If you answered B, 50%, you are correct.
The following few things are random pieces of information that are important to remember. First little tidbit is about dairy. There isn't really much research about if dairy is helpful or harmful to crabs, so it's best to just stay away from it. There are plenty of other sources for calcium, such as eggshells, oyster shell, and cuttle bones. Two things that are sort of related that are essential. First is that you must boil any shellfish before feeding. This helps to prevent spreading any diseases to your hermit crabs. The other thing is that dark greens and other foods high in oxalic acid must be cooked as well.
Remember, when cooking any foods, do not use any seasonings.
The next piece of knowledge I want to bring up is how to get the most out of some nutrients. There are some vitamins like A, D, E, and K that need to be fed in conjunction with healthy fat sources for maximum nutrient absorption. For example, food mixes that are plant-based are great and full of wonderful nutrients that help hermit crabs thrive. But they will get the most out of those nutrients when it's fed with a little bit of fish skins, virgin oils, etc. at the same time.
Try not to think about it too hard, though. We pretty well understand our bodies and which nutrients we're lacking. But since we cannot talk to you, with the exception of me, please provide as many different nutrients as possible for feeding. Pop quiz! Why do you need to cook shellfish before serving? A. Prevent smells in the tank. B. Because if it's raw, Gordon Ramsay will throw it in the trash and make it do it again. C. Prevent spreading diseases. Or D. None of the above. If you answered C, prevent spreading diseases, you are correct! Woo!
Okay, so the last bit of material for nutritional needs that I wanted to bring up is about the commercial foods that are marketed for hermit crabs.
Those pellets are yucky and I don't like them.
Yes, they are, and they're terrible for our friends because of all the additives. The main one being copper sulfate. A lot of those additives will actually alter their molting ability and therefore affect their overall health and growth. So when looking for foods at a pet store or online, please check the ingredients list of the product. Most single ingredient foods are safe, but remember to check the handy dandy safe food list available on crabstreetjournal.org.
Pop quiz! What was my favorite nutritional group? Was it A, supplements, B, fruits, C, anthocyanins, or D, proteins? If you answered D, proteins, you are correct!
So now that part is down, and I hope you found it interesting and helpful.
thank you guys again for watching and learning about food. I hope to see more of my brothers and sisters thriving on amazing meals. But now I'm tired and need to go to sleep. Bye!
Bye, Shelly. I'll check on you later. Next, I want to show you how I organize all my food mixes to cut down clutter and also keep it organized. Then I'll show you what a lot of people have said is a good idea, and I believe it'll help some of the newbies out there, making sure their crabs are getting all the nutrition needed to thrive until they get the hang of feedings. I know it's been a lifesaver for me. So over here I have my jewelry organizers. These are an absolute blessing to get, especially for people who are like me and don't like having a bunch of baggies everywhere. You can get these at a lot of different stores, like Walmart, Target, dollar stores. I'm sure they even have them at craft stores as well. I like this specific one the most because if I ever want to, I can actually remove these inserts. I'm not going to do it now because there's food in there, but you can remove the inserts and make the spaces larger or smaller depending on what your needs are. And currently, I do have 3 of these. Now, you do want to make sure some of these, I accidentally got this one, it doesn't lock too well. So you'll want to make sure to get ones that lock better, or when you store it, just make sure you have the next heavy thing right on top so you don't spill any food and waste any food. And as you can see, most of those are completely filled. It's seriously an addiction. Now, of course, we all have those few oddball things that don't fit. So I do have the remaining containers and such, and my little feeding spoon in this little basket. This is just really good because there's some bags like this one, or where's it? This salmon one. The pieces are really large, so it just doesn't make sense for me to move everything out of the way just to make space for those. But this is how I do it, and I actually really love most of the approved sellers on our list. We can find that because of one, the obvious. They make safe foods for a great price. If you go out to the grocery store, sometimes you can see that produce isn't all that cheap. And with the little amounts that our hermit crabs eat at one time, sometimes it makes sense to purchase these pre-made mixes just because of the amounts. The other thing that I really love about the approved sellers is most of them have these handy little stickers that you can just peel off of the container that they come in, and then you can tape them, or sometimes this sticky is still good enough. You can tape them on the surface of your jewelry organizers, and then you'll always know which is in which compartment. Now, the initial part of organizing is done. We can talk about how to make sure our little buddies are getting everything they need. To give you a little warning, it's a bit of extra work, but it'll be worth it to know you're feeding your hermit crabs exactly what they need. So what I did was I made this list. And I listed out all the foods I have. I did end up grouping them by which store I bought them from, so if my crabbies really love it, I know where I got it before and I can order it again. With each food mix name, I listed out all the ingredients within that mix, which is super easy because, at least on Etsy, the approved sellers will list out all the items used within the mix, so there's no second guessing if the added things could be harmful. Then, under each mix, I compared it to the nutritional groups listed on Crab Street Journal and typed out what nutrients each one has. This is why I say to people that it's more simple than you think to provide all the nutrients needed, because you can see most of these mixes fall under multiple groups. It does get a little more complicated when you're feeding fresh foods, but you can still apply the same logic for those when deciding what to feed that day. After I made this list, I go to my flower dish template. I only do it in this shape because that's what I have. I actually got these dishes from Mary Acker's store on Etsy, and it's called Earth, Water, Fire Studio, all one word. Anyway, she makes fantastic feeding dishes in the shapes of flowers, pea pods. I think there's a couple that are fish shaped. I might be wrong on that. But anyways, so that's why I made this template in a flower shape. You can easily create your own based on whatever shaped dish you have. I created it in Photoshop. You can use that as well, or something similar. I'm sure creating it in Paint wouldn't even be that hard. Then comes the real thinking. After deciding what dish you want to use, you have to try to choose which foods to put in together to create the full, or as full as possible, food pie chart. To give a visual representation of how I think it through, I put together this Excel sheet, splitting out those individual nutritional groups and putting the names of the food under the correct title. I then just started with the proteins, since there should be 50% of the total meal consisting of that nutrient, and split them out until none were left. You can see I also put the numbered meal as to when I would feed that food. I then looked under each group and the foods that overlap. I put the same number so it made it easier to track what food I hadn't used yet and which dishes needed more of one nutrient or another. Of course, I only did this to help show you my thought process, and you do not have to do it this way. This is just what works for my organizational brain. Then, once you get done with all of that, you can make it pretty like me and color the template or whatever is best for you. I've seen some people make it like a food diary. I've seen some who use a whiteboard. Again, this is what's most helpful for me. If you have a better way, then by all means, go ahead and do it. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining, and I really hope all this helps you and makes life easier, at least when it comes to feeding your little crabbies. Have an awesome day, and enjoy the rest of CrabCon!